Hi folks, this is Dr. denBoer. You're about to experience some very cutting-edge information that is extremely useful for your health. Not only will you experience weight loss, but a total reset, physically and even psychologically. You're going to hear about technology that is used to fight inflammation, to lose weight, and there's some incredible new data out that shows that we can use it for autoimmune diseases, diabetes, cancer, all kinds of things. What we are presenting is basically three things. One, what is keto adaptation or ketogenesis? Here at DBC we call it nourish because a lot of these keto diets are very unhealthy. They're just drenched with foods that you don't want. They're very inflammatory and not maintainable long term. So we show you how to do it right. The benefits thereof, again, very anti-inflammatory, weight loss, you start burning fats, and yes, it increases athletic performance in a big way. So that is something that's very worthwhile looking at. The other thing that we're looking at is something called fast-mimicking diet. We have known since Old Testament times that fasting has multiple benefits, and in parts of the world, including the old Soviet Union, now Russia, Germany, throughout Western Europe, we're seeing incredible results for psychological conditions, autoimmune diseases, certain cancers. So we're really excited about fasting, but we're not excited about patients doing it with very poor compliance because it takes quite a bit to do that. So the National Institute of Health has discovered that fast mimicking diets using only certain foods in certain quantities makes your body think you're fasting with all of its incredible benefits. We're going to be discussing that. And third but not last, we're going to be discussing the microbiome and advances we have made figuring out probiotics that actually affect weight loss. It does it by making the gut less leaky. It is phenomenal new technology. I will be excited to present that to you. And sit back, enjoy, take notes. Welcome to this health journey. I'm very much attracted to leading edge researchers presenting all their new information because I don't want to wait 15 to 25 years for it to appear in medical textbooks before I can apply it, right? It's just, yeah. So I took some slides, some of them directly, and projected them on here. They're very incredible. They're very complex slides. They're meant for physicians' interpretation. I'm just going to kind of breeze over them and give you an explanation what it means. But we do have medical professionals in the audience as well as watching online that want to dig in a little further. So they want to know the references. Where does it come from, and what does that chart mean? And for their benefit, they're on there. I also want to make sure that I know myself a little bit. Once in a while I get to be like a runaway train and you leave, it's like, what just happened? I don't know what to do with all this information. I really want to emphasize that the basics really, really count. It's a huge win. For instance, Blake is going to show you some exercises. I'm really, really excited about that. It's a huge win if you just do a 10-minute walk a day versus sitting on a couch. Right? So you have to remember that. I just celebrated today a patient a fairly new patient, but he stopped drinking pop. That was huge, right? Just stop drinking pop. And you should have seen his BIA change. Muscle mass was up 2%, body fat had dropped 3 in just 6 weeks. So we got to keep the basics in mind, that it's not complicated. But what we're going to talk about tonight are some very powerful tools that bring about phenomenal changes. I'm going to show you some slides from autoimmune diseases. And yes, this all adds to the weight loss because that is what this is all about today. But it's much, much more than that. I look at weight loss as really getting a patient healthy. So let the games begin. This could be a lot of fun. We'll address questions afterwards. Let's have some fun with the basics first. So basics in weight loss. I've covered this topic now for over 25 years. Every January we do this topic. And my dad was a minister, and I feel a little bit like his pain at Christmas time. Oh, we have to do the Christmas message again, right? And you have to put a different twist on it every time. And I remember as a kid even feeling sorry for him. But the basics stay the same. And one is how to make lifestyle changes stick.
So I did some research on that. I have some opinions, some experience in the 30 years, what motivates patients and what doesn't motivate them. One of which is, what do I get out of making those changes? That's really, really important. What motivates you? We all have different things. I love bombing down a ski mountain. It's one of the things I'm very passionate about. If it means for me to lose a little bit of weight that I can resume skiing again, that would be a big motivating factor, but it might mean absolutely nothing for you. Yeah? What motivates me is, I have a latecomer as a child, number 5, and when she was born, I was thinking about how old I was going to be when she graduates. And I thought, you know, I don't want her to have an old fuddy-duddy as a dad. I just don't. That's what motivates me. See, so there's other things like being an example for my patients, and on it goes. So you have to really address that. Don't do it, oh, I should lose weight, I should exercise. Doesn't work. You can go on willpower maybe 2 or 3 weeks. The average weight loss program is lost by January 17, Wall Street Journal. Yeah, so obviously that doesn't work. So another thing that I found was some of these psychologists did some really interesting studies and found that those people that practice happiness through contentment did really, really well sticking to it. I thought, isn't that interesting? I haven't seen that anywhere else. There's always these little tricks of the trade, and happiness through contentment. Just being thankful. Gives you that more even keel emotionally. Also gives you that rhythm of life. You're not always seeking for that next thing, that next trip, that next car, this and that frantic living that you sometimes see. Just that even happiness that gives more room to yourself for willpower. Otherwise, that willpower is all spent on doing all those things. So that evenness of a lifestyle. And also some basics that I cover in previous seminars, such as exercising first thing in the morning. If that works for you, it's got to work for you. That has a much greater chance of succeeding by 1 year later than those that exercise in the evening. The people that exercise in the evening have 22% of them are still doing it by the year's end. And the ones that are doing it in the morning, it's over 70%. So and those of us that have busy lives, as all of us do, we can relate to that, right? Get it out of the way, because there's always something that gets in the way. Also, have habits that are just not breakable. Today was a non-exercise day for me, because I was working up to the wire on this seminar, and what saved the day to some degree was just habits. This morning, 10 minutes of close to what Blake is about to show you. This afternoon, after lunch, 10-minute walk. And tonight when I get home, 10-minute walk. Those are just things I do. It's kind of a calming down, helps digestion. When you walk right after a meal, by the way, your sugar levels are going to fluctuate 50% less for 5 hours. 10-minute walk. You've already interrupted your day anyway, why not do that? And if it's a habit, shoot, I got a half hour of exercise in today, didn't I? Without even really trying. So, habits. So, reducing toxicity inflammation, that was a seminar topic about 3 months ago. You could look it up on YouTube. Absolutely critical. Obesity is close to an autoimmune disease at this point. Patients get very inflamed. Once the body fat goes over 30%, you're chronically inflamed, because these body fat cells change composition, even color, and produce inflammatory molecules non-stop. That's why it's so hard to lose weight. Over 30% of the USA is now obese, and they're very inflamed, and it's feeding other autoimmune diseases. That's why weight loss, done the right way, cures a lot of these autoimmune diseases, and we're going to show you some of those things. So reducing toxicity and inflammation is an absolute critical way to go about. And you know, we rarely mention calories in this place, because calorie counting is a little bit overrated, but at the same sense, quantity does matter. Right? Overeating will make you gain weight. There's no question about it. No, even if it's super high quality food. So you do have to be aware of that. It's always a nice little reset whenever I go back to visit family in the Netherlands and visit with colleagues. The meals literally are about a third to half of our size. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Yeah. Effective functional exercise. And you'll see in July we did a seminar on interval training and its incredible effectiveness. How in 10 to 15 minutes, if you do a 10-second interval train at full intensity, so if it's a walk, it's a sprint. If you're on a bicycle or stationary, you go all out for 10 or 15 seconds. You do that 5 times, you've just quadrupled the effectiveness of that exercise. So 10 minutes of that is equal to 30 or 40 minutes. And you're releasing very powerful hormones, growth hormones, that if you do a little bit of muscle mass training the next day, you're tripling its benefit. So 10 minutes of that is like 30 minutes of weightlifting. This is how you can game the system and become very effective with very little time. So interval training and muscle mass is magical. One is good, the other one is good. Put together, you're going to get 3 to 4 times the benefit. In all these years of practice, I have yet to encounter the patient that says, "Doc, I've got so much time, just design me an exercise program. I'd love to do it." It's never ever happened. So we want to be effective with our time. So we have designed DBC Fit, and we've put a lot of patients through that because I'm a fervent believer that exercise helps virtually any condition. What you see in the aged today is lack of exercise, not age. It's an awesome study that was done over the 90 years plus crowd in Germany. This was over 1,000 patients that were bedridden, could not move. Put personal trainers on each one of them, gave it 3 months, and would you know that over 94% of them became fully mobile in those 3 months? They bought into the notion, I'm getting old. You respond to exercise until your last breath you take. It is an absolutely critical component of being healthy. I'm loving this journey that this 105-year-old little French guy is going. He's being tested every 3 months because at age 99, somebody said, "You know, you're bicycling pretty well. And you mind if we start testing you and put you on an interval training program?" They've been measuring every 3 months. His latest one at 105, he beat his personal record again. On the oval track for 1 hour, he covered 18.9 miles in 1 hour at 105. His muscle mass is just improving, his aerobic capacity is improving. He is just shattering all notions about aging and exercise. We are designed for movement. Don't buy into this aging business. It's for the birds. Yeah? So we're going to show some pretty cool things here. This is 9 minutes. There goes the time excuse. Blake, take it away.
Good evening, folks. I am Blake, and I am the resident strength and conditioning specialist. I run DBC Fit. That is downstairs. It's a gym that we put in, I want to say, almost 2 years ago now. It's been running pretty successfully and very, very much fun. What I want to show you guys tonight is this 9-minute strength routine. And what I want to go through with you is just how easy and basic this workout is, but how impactful it can be. Just like Dr. denBoer was saying, is basics. Do not forget the basics. And these are 9 major multi-joint movements that the body can do that uses a majority of your muscle mass with every movement. The more muscle mass you can recruit in a given movement, that's going to help your overall calorie expenditure through that routine. And just like Dr. denBoer was saying with the whole calorie thing, there is a component where the calories in, calories out, that's going to play a component in this weight loss. So this is a workout that we actually found in the New York Times, and it was just perfect. We saw this and we were like, this is so basic, so simple. This is something that people need to see. So the first thing is a squat, and what I could do is spend like 10 minutes on every exercise showing you all the very technical things to do, but I'm going to give you kind of a quick overview of some of the most important points, because we do want you doing this the right way, and so we want to avoid injuries, so we're not doing it the wrong way. How this is kind of set up is a little bit like interval training. It is 3 different columns, and each exercise you do for 60 seconds. And after each round of 3, you're going to give yourself about a minute of rest. So with this, we're going to start with your squat. And squatting, you can kind of see the lady's got her hands behind her head. The biggest thing with a squat is letting your hips kind of dominate the movement. Before your body starts moving down, you should be having your hips moving back, kind of like you're sitting in a chair and then coming back up, and those hips will kind of come forward in that movement. The next one there, we have a push-up. Everyone knows how to do push-ups pretty much. The thing that you look for is that you try to keep kind of your joints in somewhat of an alignment. So you can see with this guy, it's pretty good there. He's got his hand kind of right beneath his elbow. Typically, elbows out wide. We call this working the pretty muscles. Elbows in, this is much more functional. This is going to be more kind of power. So with a push-up, I know not everyone can do that. There's ways to modify it. You can go against a wall, or there's this counter right here. I can do my push-ups just like this against the wall. So you got to try to find ways to modify it. That's a lot of times where DBC Fit comes in handy, is not everyone knows how to modify an exercise to their level. So that's where I come in. My specialty is kind of meeting you where you're at and giving you the exercise intensity that's appropriate for you. The last one there is a mountain climber. Those ones are really fun. That's much more of like a kind of a core exercise. You're in a push-up position with your arms fully extended, and you're essentially just marching in place. So if you imagine the floor in front of me, my hands are on the floor, and I'm kind of moving my feet up and down. So after that, then you're going to take a little break. You get 60 seconds, and then you move into that next column. So that next one is a plank. Again, similar to a push-up position, and you want to keep those elbows positioned right beneath your shoulder. So you're looking for 90-degree bends in all your joints. And that's a pretty important rule kind of across the board, is looking for 90-degree angles. Sitting, exercise, anytime, 90-degree angles is usually like the safest point to be in. The next thing there is a lunge. They say body weight split squat, but I'm going to just say lunge. And so your lunges, you can do forward, you can do back, you can do to the side. There's 100 different ways to do it. What I would recommend is probably actually a reverse lunge, stepping back behind you and switching legs with every step. So just like the plank there, 90-degree angles, you're looking for that front knee to be at a 90-degree angle right over top of your heel. And the last one in that is a single leg hip raise. So you're laying down on the floor, and you try to point one leg up, and you're using that one leg on the floor to lift your hips up in the air, kind of creating like a bridge. From there, you got another little break. Then you're going to move into the round 3. And the first one there is a burpee with a push-up. You don't have to do the push-up, but a basic burpee is dropping down to your hands and then jumping up in the air as high as you can. Really great full body exercise. Middle one, single leg toe touches. Sometimes I refer to these as the dipping bird, because you're kind of like dipping down and dipping back up. So what you look for with that is this back leg going really high up in the air as you reach down and touch your toe. And this is a really good balance exercise too. Actually, a lot of these will probably be a little bit balance challenging. But you can switch, every other foot, and you try to touch with whatever whatever foot goes back behind you, touch with that hand. So my right leg is going back, I'm touching my left toe with my right hand. And the last one in the set is just a leg raise. Hitting those abs again, and you're laying flat on the floor. And again, imagine I'm laying on the floor, both legs are coming up together and down together, and up together and down together. So one thing that I have I don't know, I'm sure other people have created this, but no one ever told me this. This is what I've made up, is a working minute. So you do as many reps as you can within that minute. If you need to take a rest, that's fine. You take a little rest. But you try not to take 30 seconds of rest, because that's going to kill the exercise. So you do as many reps as you can. I'm doing my squats. Okay, I'm a little tired, and I let that 60 seconds go. I maybe rest for 5, and then I keep going. As many as I can, rest for 5, until that minute is complete. That is the goal. So yeah, this is a pretty easy routine. Doesn't require any equipment. You can do this, in a 5 by 5 foot area, and it only takes 9 minutes. But it doesn't do you any good if you don't actually do it. So exercise, I love what Doc just said, it is a cure-all for everything. I mean, diabetes, arthritis, you name the condition, exercise is going to help. I spent 6 months in college researching cancer and exercise, and just the benefits of exercise in beating cancer, it's incredible. So if you want those benefits, you got to find something that motivates you into doing the exercise so that you can reap those benefits of destroying disease. And if you need some help, come see me at DBC Fit and we'll get you fit. Thank you.
Awesome. Oh yeah. Now remember, the goal here is to increase muscle mass. Muscle mass increases metabolism, which equals weight loss. That's why some people can eat a lot and not gain weight and others can't. So that's the whole object behind this. And remember also, we're all in different chapters of exercise, aren't we? Some of us are in chapter 2 and some of us are in chapter 14. So do not be intimidated by this. If you're in chapter 2, the one that's in chapter 14, in other words, knows it really well, can do CrossFit and can do all kinds of competition, they were in chapter 2 at one point in their life also. They were. We're all on this journey and we all fit in a certain chapter. Recognize that and move on to the next chapter. That's what we need to do. Okay. Fast-Mimicking Diet. A very exciting topic. An incredible, powerful tool that is hard to do correctly. I was asked a number of years ago to present from one of our big churches in this area a series of talks about fasting and its benefits. Love the topic. Obviously there's a lot of spiritual connotations. It's mentioned a lot in the Bible. And note to self, if something's mentioned a lot, it's probably pretty important. And I was absolutely fascinated by the science of fasting and the things that happens in the body. And also the fact that it's very difficult to do correctly, much more so than in Old Testament times. We have stored a lot of toxic and inflammatory molecules in our bodies, in our fat cells, in our bone marrow, everywhere. And the trouble with fasting is the alarm bells goes on and we start excreting that stuff. And with today's fat-soluble toxins, it's like creating this cloud of toxicity and you don't know where it's going to land and it might trigger something. That's the problem with fasting. However, when you really study fasting, there's something very intense happens by about the 3rd day. The body goes, uh-oh, we're in trouble. And starts recruiting all of its emergency reserves to fight inflammation. The immune system goes into overdrive. And maybe most important of all, you get a massive stem cell release. Stem cells are these one type of cell that can fix almost anything. And it will go to the spots wherever your weak spots are and will attempt to fix that. There's many different ways of doing this. There's time-restricted feeding. Okay, in other words, you only eat between this and this time during the day. There's intermittent fasting, alternate day fasting, intermittent energy restriction. They're all kind of the same. There's short-term fasting, in other words, less than 3 days. Prolonged term fasting is more than 3 consecutive days. And fasting mimicking diets. That's what we're going to talk about. It's fasting with food, for 4 to 7 days, also known as periodic fasting. In other words, we're getting the positive benefits of fasting while feeding the detoxification pathways, consuming certain types of calories. The body thinks it's fasting, but we're not quite fasting. Okay? It's taken a lot of research to do this. And when I started first researching this, I knew in Russia and the old Soviet Union and a lot of the Eastern European countries, and even back in my home country, fasting has been very much part of culture. It's what we do. Even to this day, 20% of Germans fast regularly. Yeah, it's a common thing to do. A lot of our older research comes from the old Soviet Union. I contacted a Dr. Beth Reitzma, professor of political science, an expert in Russian culture from King's College in Pennsylvania, and talked to her about this. She says, oh yeah, a lot of these old ancient, as well as more recent poets, writers, most of them fasted about 200 days of the year. It's common there. They knew it created clarity of mind. They would become much more creative, much more productive. And because the Russians have lost that to some degree, their average age, as you might know, has declined precipitously. In some regions of Russia, the average age of males is about 40 to 42, due to severe alcoholism. That alcoholism has been part of their culture forever. It hasn't changed. What has changed is that they're no longer fasting, because fasting can even decrease the effects of severe alcoholism. Fixes things like cirrhosis of the liver. Isn't that fascinating? So as she told me this, she got me going into further research. And I found this doctor, Dr. Osinin, pneumologist. He found that his severe asthma patients, as well as COPD patients, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease patients, could be improved dramatically and in many cases totally cured by doing prolonged water fasting. We're talking between 10 and 30 days. He had a special clinic for this, and what he found is when he started, this is a lung biopsy loaded with histamines. Histamines is the inflammatory molecule that causes all the mucus secretions and the constriction of the lungs. And you can see that's what the average looks like after 21 days, almost totally clear. 5-year follow-up, still an average of 70% improvement in lung function. Phenomenal. Just with fasting. I got a kick out of this one. The filing systems from these Russians, it's unbelievable. They just have a bunch of files thrown in big cabinets and they're all over the place, and these are some of the samples of the files with some of the charts they put on there. But you notice that he had found also incidentally cholesterol, insulin, triglyceride, and the glycemic load on the body had improved dramatically during that time. Lung function evened out, heart function, there's just all kinds of things that happened. And we have a lot of data on that. Fast forward to today. The signs between fast-mimicking diet and aging. We have found that with mice, their health span, or lifespan, increases an average of 11.3% when we expose them to fasting-mimicking diets. And that's been known for quite a while. But we also know, if you dig into that article, that inflammatory markers improved, cholesterol improved, blood pressure improved, diabetic mice became non-diabetic. And the list goes on and on and on. This science is the result of 23 years of research and development of the Longevity Institute, University of Southern California, with 26 million grants by NIH. I made sure I let you know that, because those are our tax dollars, and you're getting information and useful information out of that, because this stuff is just being hidden. Nobody knows it. And I wanted to get it out to as many people as possible. Our money actually giving us very, very useful information. And here are some of the findings in the healthy group. So in other words, nothing is going on with these people. They're fit, their weight is good, there's no blood pressure, cholesterol issues, and even with them, you'll see a dramatic improvement in body weight, abdominal fat, the waist circumference, lean body mass, inflammatory markers. Your blood pressures, your cholesterol improved some, your C-reactive protein, which is one of the most important inflammatory molecules, and inflammation is the emperor of all maladies, improved quite dramatically. And the one that I thought was most fun, the stem cells, right at the end there, shows quite an improvement. That last chart is stem cells. The bar in the middle shows stem cells going shockingly high during fasting, and then even afterwards, it still is quite elevated. That's 3 months after the fact. Then the elevated risk group. So now we're talking patients who are overweight and inflamed and have autoimmune diseases. They had a dramatic drop in body weight, and in all the markers, we've seen just very incredible blood pressure changes. Their fasting glucose has improved so much that they're recommending that diabetics do this under doctor supervision only, because a lot of them actually have to stop their insulin because they've improved so much. And the C-reactive protein is so dramatically improved that, as you'll see in some slides coming up, their autoimmune disease risk has gone way down. Here it is with visceral fat. Visceral fat is just fat on organs, and that is a sure sign of autoimmune type of inflammation and insulin resistance. And you can see the before and after pictures. It's a dramatic improvement. This is a very fascinating one also, because they're talking about type 1 diabetes, right? This is where the pancreas has shut down. It's no longer functioning. We're insulin dependent, and there's no way to reverse that, quote unquote. I have seen that to be not true in my office. I have seen some incredible things. Now research has proven that. There's no function in that first slide. During fasting, we're seeing incredible regrowth of insulin producing cells within the pancreas, and even 3 months afterwards it's still producing insulin. Folks, this was stunning. This is absolutely stunning. When I saw this about 3 months ago, I about fell off my chair. Because here we are doing all kinds of fancy things, trying to do stem cell therapy, we're trying to do transplants and all that, and here it is right in front of us. We can do that within our own body, unleashing our own ability to heal. Type 2 diabetes, same thing. MS, you're seeing regrowth of lost neurons within the spinal cord. So we're seeing reversal of MS damage. MS can be treated very effectively, by the way, and we've seen that very much in this office. But I suspect some of the success is by the neuroplasticity, where we're bypassing damaged neurons and creating new ones. So it's like a patient recovering from a stroke, not unlike that. So, and we're of course thrilled with that. I think this takes it one step further, and we're actually seeing a total renewal of what was lost. With cancer, we're starting to see very interesting trials. There's, in about 2 months, they're going to release new studies. One was, it decreases the side effects of chemotherapy very dramatically. In fact, there's one oncologist that is now doing this in this town. He's going through fast-mimicking diets with his cancer patients. And we're seeing some very dramatic normalization of some of the side effects from chemo. But it also sensitizes the cancer to chemotherapy, which I think is a very cool thing. However, we're seeing more than just that. Metastasis of cancer is a big deal. And this is our control group, and this is with fasting mimicking. And you're seeing so much less metastasis in kidney cancer. That's a wicked cancer. Dramatic. Interestingly enough, not so much there. Spleen, liver. The only one that showed no response that way is lung. I find that fascinating. Yeah. So we're seeing some very dramatic things here with this diet. We're going to talk more about practical application in a bit. But you can see how fasting mimicking diet is not just about weight management, but it's about reversing some very wicked cancers, some very wicked autoimmune diseases, and unleashing the body's power to heal itself.